visit your neighbors. Please think twice before you support a pseudo-government like 3CDC.
So I invite the panelists to discuss among themselves, and those of you who have questions could arrange yourselves on each side of the room, and you can have access to the microphones. So, panelists?
Tom, I was struck by...
Try to, yeah, it's the big room. You're playing the big room.
It's beyond my experience. Tom, I was struck by your concerns about mixed incomes as a way to characterize neighborhood, and it occurred to me, well, what's the opposite of that then? Is it stratified incomes in neighborhoods, ghettos, Indian Hills, or how is that contrasted with your concept of shared equity?
I think provisionally, partially, I can say that I'm for economic mix. I'm attracted to that kind of language. It sounds inclusive, it sounds democratic. What I think I can say definitively is that it cannot be left to chance. I think what's going on in Over-the-Rhine, if there is primarily a market rate condo sort of invasion that's happening, if there's an assumption that economic mix will result is naturally result from that, I don't think that's true. I think just adding and stirring just doesn't work. And so basically, you know, markets left to their own devices actually produce economic homogeneity. They don't produce heterogeneity. They don't produce a mix. So it isn't going to be left to chance, and you can't let the market deliver it. So there's got to be a strong public presence. You know, there's got to be a strong city. The problem, though, is, as Josh has laid out, is that corporations are completely not only in line with the city, but the city is primarily now the facilitator of all things corporate. Okay? There's a city corporate alliance that's not just in this city, it's sort of what exists in the world today. And it's hard to, I mean, we know this for a fact, Josh, because when we did a small suburban, not suburban, but sub-area neighborhood plan right after 3CDC came to power, we took it to the city, because that's what you do. You know, take it to the city, we have a plan, we want to have you act on it, think about it, and so forth. They say, what does 3CDC think? We said, what? You're the public body, you oversee community plans. They said, take it to 3CDC, you have to run it by them first. And so, I mean, my point is I can hold on to the concept of economic mix. I'm not for social stratification, that kind of thing. I think it's going to be very difficult to achieve. My fear is that economic mix is just cover for corporate and city gentrification. That's my fear. But I still hold on to the concept and know that it has to be worked at very diligently. It's not going to result by the market just going.
I have a quick question. You know, and I don't know if, you know, what my sense is. This is my impression, and I'm not sure if it's correct, so I'm trying this out on you who know more than I do. So my assumption is that when you're talking about the corporate presence in 3CDC, I mean, this is all part of the way in which public institutions cease to be public, right? And the major players are, to name them, are Kroger, P&G, and Federated. Is that right?
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah. So, who is most of the bonding, most of the financing done by those corporations for is a means of plugging into tax abatements for their corporate profits? I assume this, but I don't know it. Where does
Tax credit. Somebody's got to buy the tax credit.
Right.
The city gets awarded the tax credits, or 3CDC gets awarded the tax credits, and somebody's got to buy them.
Right.
So that generate cash, and they're the ones that buy it.
Right. So the question essentially is, where does the funding come from?
Where does the funding come from, and then, you know, where do the abatements go, right? Because one of the things, I mean, you saw, you know, the city is starved for capital, so nobody, you know, any development is good development. That's what Roxanne was essentially saying today.
Right. So I'm not going to be able to sit here and recite an entire budget, but
just generally.
But generally, just a few examples. Yes, 3CDC does get a lot of corporate support, undoubtedly. They also get a lot of public dollar support from city to state to local, or local, state to federal, rather. Let's look at Washington Park, for example. This is not housing in particular, but 2 square blocks where $47 million is being spent. 11 million of that is public, coming through a variety of means. If we look at something like Mercer Commons, so Roxanne or whoever this morning probably said, and 10% of it will be affordable. It's going to be affordable via tax credit. Now, what does that mean? This is a little bit of a tangent. That means 80% of area median income. That means about $25,000 a year. Again, much of Over-the-Rhine makes $10,000 a year. That is affordable by some technicalities to some people, but it's widely known that tax credit affordable is only affordable to kind of a small number of folks. The other piece I would add in, if you want to, we talk about funding. This is, again, a slight tangent, but we heard this morning that revenues in the city are not keeping up with expenses in the city. Something that we didn't hear, these same corporations that sit on 3CDC's board in our city, when CEOs receive stock options as income, if they get half their income as stock options, half the millions, it's not taxed. It's not taxed. They can sell it right away, they can take the cash, and it is not taxed. And so these same folks that are removing people from their homes and funding this organization that does it with those dollars are also not paying taxes on much of their income. Not that they're not paying enough, they're not paying at all on some of their income. So I'll leave it at that. I'm sure I'll have more time to talk.
I would just add that almost all of Over-the-Rhine is in a tax increment district. So that is a way that especially the public improvements are being financed. And I wanted to ask Roxanne, when she said we have spent $20-some million on affordable housing, which we is she talking about? Which hat is she wearing then? Is it the city? I don't think so. I think she's speaking that 3CDC acting on the behalf of the city. So the question that Josh raised this morning is, well, what exactly are the city's goals here? And how do we measure or benchmark that to see how they're performing?
Questions from the audience? Anything that strikes your fancy? Yeah, go ahead.
I live over on the west side, and there have been a lot of issues with affordable housing and people coming from the notion that people are coming from the city center and moving up the hill into the west side and creating neighborhood decline is a lot of the idea. So even though this is sort of a working class, middle income to working class part of town, when they're talking about income mixing or affordable housing moving in to other neighborhoods, there's so much pushback by those communities to allow affordable housing into the neighborhood. So you have places like Green Township that don't want any Section 8 housing, and you have places like Mount Lookout that are fighting tooth and nail to keep subsidized units out of their neighborhoods. So my question is, and it's maybe more hypothetical, if we're encouraging mixed income housing, and we're only doing it in a way that inserts people with means into low-income neighborhoods, but as a community, I live in East Price Hill, that resists low-income people from coming in, I think it's hypothetical. And are there ways that we can address that more constructively as a city, so that we're putting our money where our mouth is, we're being honest about what that means?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question. I think one what everybody should pick up on is that our system is not sustainable. We say, well, you can't live here and you can't live here and certainly not over there. Well, okay, that's not going to work, right? But yes, I think the first way that we change this concept of, one, that we have to insert an upper class into a traditionally lower class neighborhood,